It's been a traumatic week in Kalamazoo. Since the tornado struck there Tuesday, information has been coming in bits and pieces.
Good evening. The tornadoes that struck Kalamazoo and the surrounding area this past Tuesday are being called the greatest disaster ever to hit our area.
There it is. Stop right here. Stop right here.
So were you in Kalamazoo back in 1980 when the tornado came?
Yep.
You remember it?
Yep. Came right down that highway, right down. See that? Came downtown. I heard and ran out the house. And when it came through like that, I looked up, and that joker knocked the window out that whole America Bank right down the side.
For centuries, tornadoes have terrified and fascinated humankind. Sometimes known as nature's most violent storms, these swirling columns of air have not only left a mark on our landscape, but also on the cultures that witness their fury. From ancient myths and folklore to modern cinema, tornadoes have become a symbol of raw and unstoppable power.
North America is the epicenter of these swirling columns of wind. Over 75% of the world's tornadoes happen on this continent.
And today we're going to talk about a particular tornado, the Kalamazoo tornado of 1980. It struck the heart of downtown, shocking the state and leaving a lasting impact on the people of the city.
According to Iroquois mythology, tornadoes were the daughter of the wind spirit. She was said to take the form of a whirlwind.
They believed she was a dangerous witch that couldn't be killed, and if you angered her, she would pick you up and toss you miles away. Now, tornadoes weren't a big deal to Europeans because they were kind of infrequent over in Europe, and they weren't as strong as their North American cousins. The first written record I could find of a tornado was one that happened in Ireland in 1054. And in 1165 in York, England, one of the most colorful descriptions of a tornado. It was described as a devil riding his horse off to the sea. And apparently the tornado had multiple vertices. And in 1587 in Germany, they described the tornado as a dragon's tail that swept across the ground, causing destruction. In the early days, tornadoes were described as divine intervention. And to those early explanations, God was being instructive and not punishing. And I'm not sure how. So as the settlers arrived and they started moving west, tornadoes were kind of a frequent thing. And a lot of them were unnerved by that. But if you were pious in those times, you were pretty safe from the tornado. The tornado didn't want to teach you a lesson, it wanted to teach someone else a lesson. Eventually, science took over studying tornadoes and describing them. The Smithsonian got involved, and then there was the formation of the Weather Bureau. So by 1980, predicting the conditions that would create a tornado were pretty good. But we didn't have a network of Doppler radars to identify tornadoes that were about to happen. Didn't really happen until 1988. So it was a surprise when on May 13th, a tornado touched down 14 miles that way in Van Buren County at 3:48 p.m.
At 4 p.m., a tornado warning was issued for Kalamazoo with sirens blaring. And 14 minutes later, the tornado crossed 131 right here. And then the tornado twisted and tore its way toward downtown Kalamazoo.
So the tornado crosses US 131 heading east, just north of a major shopping area in Kalamazoo, into the neighborhoods of Green Acres and the neighborhoods of Westwood and West Main. And for the next 3 minutes, it travels 3 miles toward downtown Kalamazoo. After the tornado plows through the neighborhoods, it takes 3 minutes to go about 3 miles. And then it ends up here at Mount Home Cemetery. So Mountain Home Cemetery is got some great views here, but this is where Poppins and I plan to spend our eternal rest. So when the tornado came through Mountain Home Cemetery, and you can kind of see its path there where there's less mature trees in this older graveyard, as it came through, it actually knocked a bunch of 150 to 200-year-old trees down. And at the same time as those trees fell over, they brought gravestones up with the tree roots. Some eyewitnesses said it exposed coffins and even brought a couple coffins out of the ground. I don't know if that's true or not. So the tornado started north of West Main, the main road over there that goes in through the middle of downtown. And by this point, the tornado has gotten very close. Downtown is that way. So at 4:12, the tornado pretty much reached downtown Kalamazoo, and it struck Nord Laundry and Dry Cleaning, and it claimed its first fatality, Mary Gilman.
After the tornado came down West Main Hill and hit the laundromat, it came here to St. Augustine's School and Church, and it took off the roof of the gymnasium and the parish hall. Thankfully, with the tornado watch being issued, the school sent 328 students home an hour early, and they were all safe. So following St. Augustine's Church, a woman was coming here to the post office, and she got in just in time. They headed to the basement. She said, you know when your ears pop in an airplane? Well, it was like our whole body reacted to the pressure. And moments later, when it was done, she came upstairs and everything was silent. There were no birds chirping, and she said there was a car wrapped around the corner of the post office. A few witnesses said that the road looked like it was paved with diamonds from all the broken glass.
As the tornado hit downtown, Kalamazoo public safety officers positioned themselves on top of what was one of the tallest buildings in Kalamazoo at the time. Between the water tower and that tower over there, the tornado came straight down West Main Street over there. And you can see St. Augustine's Church there, which was decimated. It came down the hill and it pretty much followed the road right next to St. Augustine that comes through downtown. So if you can imagine, the officers decided it probably wasn't a good idea to be on the roof of that structure. And I believe they left their positions. Now, as the tornado came through downtown, it kind of went to that side of West Main, right there to Bronson Park.
So here in Bronson Park, 24 huge 150-year-old trees were knocked down, uprooted, and destroyed. And you can see the path of the tornado where the newer trees stand now. So since these 150-year-old trees crashed down on Rose Street, Francis Hardy, a 49-year-old, was riding his motorcycle. He sadly rode his motorcycle right into the tree debris and became the second fatality.
As the tornado lingered in downtown Kalamazoo and finished its twisty work with Bronson Park, it struck the Industrial Commercial Bank building, blowing the windows out.
And when it came through like that, I looked up, and that joker knocked the window out that whole America Bank right down the side. All that money comes flying out the window.
Oh, really?
How did that happen? And you know what? Them people down there walking around that tornado, like grabbing that money, all them people.
I did not know that.
Ooh, money from heaven, they say. Man, they grabbing that money.
This is Farmers Alley, where you can go to the Farmers Alley Theater, an equity theater that's got some pretty good shows. And the tornado struck the Gilmore department store, tearing off the whole east side facade, exposing the interior of the building, killing Christina Wellington and Lucia McFall. Today, there's still evidence of the tornado because you can see the new facade that was placed on the building during reconstruction after the tornado because it had all fallen off.
So James was a high school junior and he worked here at Hep department store. He had just made it into the building when all the windows blew out. He could see the sun from above because the second and third stories were gone, and that's where they had kept all their supplies and all their stock.
So as the tornado started to turn away from West Main Street, it started to head east by southeast. And here, was where a bunch of cars were flipped over. Yeah, cars flipped literally over. I mean, like these full cars here, they got lifted up into the air and then like thrown around like little toys.
So a few blocks from downtown, 11-year-old David was heading to his music lesson here at Central High School. David stopped dead in the middle of the road and watched the sky. He said the sky was a boiling mass of green, and the tornado passed right over him with the funnel dangling and spinning above him. Later that night, this building became the Red Cross's shelter and fed the 1,200 homeless people. The next day, another shelter was built nearer to the neighborhoods.
So the tornado continued its path for a few more minutes through the industrial section, claiming its last fatality, Raymond Moyer. It was an F3 tornado on a Fujita scale, and its winds were about 150 to 200 miles per hour. It traveled 11 miles in 18 minutes and claimed 5 lives and injured 79 people. It left about 1,200 people homeless and caused $50 million in damage. And it seemed like Kalamazoo was a bombed out city without much hope, but the residents came together and they said, yes, there is still a Kalamazoo with bumper stickers. And the city rallied together and they rebuilt within a few years. And it's a really nice place to visit these days. A few minutes after the tornado had gone through, the entire downtown was silent. People came out of the buildings and into the streets that had no traffic, that had no noise. And we're in a bit of a daze, I think.
James from the HEP store, the high school junior, he said, "I will always remember the spirit and generosity of my fellow Kalamazooian. It is that spirit that the tornado brought out, and I will never forget."
Kalamazoo throughout the 80s was already a tired city, and the rebuilding that took place was frankly kind of amazing, and Kalamazoo is a more vibrant city today. And for sure, the Kalamazoo tornado left an impression on a lot of us that knew about the tornado that sticks with us today and keeps the power and the raw beauty and the mystique of a tornado with us. That's the story. From Kalamazoo, Michigan, I'm Chuck.
I'm Poppins.
The channel's Restless Viking. Thanks for exploring this story with us.